You are the aren't you assistant mayor? No, that's Robin.
I think we're all set. All right. All right, call to order the Roseville City Council meeting, special meeting for August 19th, 2026. The roll call stands. We have all of our council members here, and we also have our chair of our Equity and Inclusion Commission, Paraj Vemarati, here with us. So the roll call is done. The only thing we have on our agenda this evening for this special meeting is interviewing candidates for the Equity and Inclusion Commission, and that's what we'll proceed to do. And we have our first candidate ready to go, so feel free to come on up to the table and get the process underway.
Take out my official name
First
and here we go.
All right, perfect. Well, welcome, and thank you for applying. I believe you're applying for a second time?
I am. I think the first time was for the Planning Commission.
Right.
Yes, and we spoke on the phone. We had a lovely conversation.
I think we may have spoken as
We
well.
did.
Yes,
We
okay.
did.
All right, well, anyway,
Tried.
welcome and thank you for applying for the Equity and Inclusion Commission this round, and we appreciate you being able to be here this evening for the interviews. The process we do is we do a round of questions and your answers, and we rotate who starts the questions each candidate. But then at the end of that, if there's anything that either we didn't cover during the questions that you want to make sure we're aware of in support of your application to the commission, feel free to let us know that, or if you have any questions for us.
Sounds good.
And I think we're allowing about 10 minutes for each candidate, so we should be able to have cover a lot of ground in 10 minutes usually. So concerned about that.
Okay.
All right, with that out of the way, I will start this round of questions with Councilmember Groff.
Hi, thanks for being here. So the first question is, how do your experiences and skills relate to serving on a city commission?
Sure. Okay. So I would say, let me lead with my soft skills first before I go into my hard skills. So I have kind of an interesting career arc, and for me, career in my life, it's all the same. And so I have been in fitness. I have been a manager of a large and diverse team. I have worked as a user researcher for a multinational tech company. I have also worked as a marketing director for a local entrepreneur. And so it may seem like an interesting career arc, but the through line for all of that is that I have had to get very good at refining my interpersonal communication skills, because all of that is deep work that means a lot to the people who are in it. And so I have gotten very good at listening to what's being said and what's not being said. I've gotten really good at having brave and courageous conversations that can be hard, and leading with empathy and kindness and clarity. Those things I think could be useful on a community that is focused on equity and inclusion and all the nuance that entails. Hard skills. So again, interesting career arc, but through all of that, I have had to take very vague goals and visions and translate that into something meaningful and clear with action behind it and a plan and measurable outcomes. So for a committee that is looking to create real impact in the community, I think that could be useful. And also, I have really deep experience working pretty closely with a wide and diverse group of people. So different races, different genders, sexualities, class, all of it, in really personal ways, particularly in fitness. And so I may be able to see gaps and ways we might be leaving people behind in ways that other people might not be able to spot. So.
The second question from Councilmember Strong.
Thank you. So what motivates you to be a part of this volunteer commission?
I really want to get more involved with my city. So, and you're probably hearing that a lot from people, I would guess, given just the state of the world. But I love Roseville. I love living here. I love my community. And my kids are grown. So they have flown the coop, you know what I mean? And so I have the time now to invest in ways that I didn't before. And I would really like to learn more about how everything works and start with a commission that is meaningful to me.
Right. Chair Moretti.
Please explain your understanding of the scope or duty of the commission you applied for.
So my understanding is that it serves in more of an advisory and recommendations role than in making decisions. So we are the committee, I'm not on the commission yet, but we meet once a month. We are working on whatever initiatives are decided by the commission, and we do the research and we get make the evaluation, and then we give the recommendations to the council, and then you take it from there. So that's my understanding.
Councilmember Schroeder.
What do you believe should be the focus of the commission?
So I would be wary of walking in, given my limited scope and understanding of what the commission has done so far. And I did do some research and have learned what you all have done so far as the new commission member packet. I read that. The email template you came up with for the residents during when ICE was here in the Twin Cities, amazing. But my understanding is still kind of limited to what you all do. So, you know, at the outset, I would say it would be nice to have a community-facing win that we could show the community that lets them know that we are being really proactive and understanding their concerns and that they're being heard, and a way to kind of measure that so that we can help prioritize what we might do next for the community. Other than that, I would take your lead, you know? So put me wherever you need me.
Councilmember Bauer.
Okay. What do you love most about living in Roseville?
So I'm a St. Paul girl at heart, and stick with me because I know we're not technically St. Paul. But I lived in McAllister Groveland up until the 4th grade. And then my parents, who had divorced each other, remarried each other, and they're still married. And when they did that, they moved me to Coon Rapids from McAllister Groveland. You can imagine that that might have been a little bit of a culture shock for me, even in the 4th grade. I was like, it's too quiet here, everybody's white, and they all drive the same car. Anyway, I stayed friends with all of my friends in St. Paul. I went to Central Lutheran Elementary on Lexington, and I grew up at Harmar, you know. I grew up at Rosedale and Como Park. And so when I met my husband, my now husband, about 20 years ago, he's a graduate of Roseville High School, and his whole family is. And when we, you know, cohabitated, we bought a house in Roseville. And it just felt like coming home. It was like, this is where I was like always meant to be. So that's my kind of long-winded answer to that question.
All right. Well, I get the next question. We go from sort of the softball question to a little more challenging question. Sometimes commissions, and specifically this commission, can make recommendations or look at making recommendations to the council on a matter that has a lot of strong feelings from the public, perhaps from opposing points of view. How would you expect to deal with those types of situations while serving on the commission? Perhaps there will be testimony from members of the public to the commission.
Sure.
And then, you know, pros and cons about the particular recommendation that you're considering.
Sure. I found that in any time people come heated, and which I'm sure happens, especially, you know, in this area, that it's my job to stay here. So people might be up here and elevated and hot, and I just stay right here. And when I do that, it seems to give people, it lets them know they have the space to feel their feelings without judgment. And then I may, and depending on the scenario, may ask some questions to kind of get at what's really behind the emotions. And usually I found when you do that, people aren't as far apart from me or somebody else as they might have originally thought they were. They just want to be heard. And so, but really I just kind of just stay right here, give people the space to feel their feelings and ask them questions to help keep them grounded. When it comes to any recommendations that we of the commission might make, I I would want all of those recommendations to be grounded in evidence, any sort of research that we may have done that is relevant to the community and that is aligned with the commission's mandate. So everyone knows this didn't come out of nowhere, you know what I mean? And it's also not, the recommendations aren't catering to the people who are the loudest in the room. And in fact, also include people who are often underrepresented in recommendations, which is the point of the whole commission in the first place. And then I would also say that, you know, on the commission, we might make a recommendation to the council that we feel really strongly about, and we've got all, you know, it's very well-reasoned, and you might not take it. And I'm here for that process too, you know what I mean? So that's where I would live in that realm.
Right. Well, those are the questions. And so now if there's anything you wanted to make sure that we knew as we were considering your application, or any questions you have for us, this is the chance for that.
I would actually, do you mind if I just ask you, like, where you see the commission having the most impact right now and where the gap might be to what you want to achieve?
No, it's, you know, obviously we are a politically divisive commission, right? And by ordinance, we apply an equity and inclusion lens to city policies, procedures, and programs. I have it memorized. And it's very broad, right? And so the first year, we spent a lot of time looking at the commissioner onboarding process, right? And so going from that handbook to like a 3-page document, putting things in plain English. And, you know, I think we're still at a crossroads of where to go from here, but we're taking a look at the annual, Leatherman, is that what it's called, Trackman survey?
The survey,
So
right.
taking a look at the survey and seeing if there's anything we can find in there to improve on, and then go from there, right? We can kind of, again, equity inclusion is very broad, and there are a number of city policies that we could probably look at. One also including like building a new maintenance center, looking at actually the bid process potentially. Actually, one idea that I had, because last week, the nonprofit that presented, they said that they do dental work for children at elementary schools. I have a potential idea to potentially expand that to vision care. I have a finance background, so I'm gonna probably build a model and see how much cash it'll actually cost. But it seems like they have exposure to that, so that's one idea I have. But a lot of this commission is I'm still figuring it out. You know, so I'm trying to like throw things on the wall and see what sticks. And you know, that Commissioner Quick guy stuck, and then just taking it one day at a time.
Okay. What do you think would be most helpful for you from a new commissioner?
No, definitely understanding how the city operates in the first place, right? And again, seeing the gaps that could be lying. Again, I was specifically looking at the commissioner onboarding process, but again, maybe how parks operates or finance operates, and seeing how we can make that more inclusive for residents is kind of my focus.
Thank you. That's it.
Well, that brings us to the end of this interview, and we appreciate once again your interest in serving and coming back for a second round.
Yes.
As I think we probably said the first time around, or communicated to you, is that we do have a number of applicants and one opening to fill here
Yep.
this time around. So
Understood.
certainly want to make sure that we connect your enthusiasm and your interest in serving the community in whatever way we can. And if that means this appointment, you know, great. If it means trying again in the spring for the next round,
Sure.
that's good too. And certainly Rachel out in the lobby can help you connect with a lot of volunteer opportunities that aren't even as official as serving on a commission. But we really
Great.
appreciate, once again, interest from members of the community, especially longtime members, for stepping forward to serve. So thank you again for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was
Enjoy the
fun.
rest of your evening.
Thank you. You as well.
Seat here. This year, Dan.
I am.
Yes. Good to see you
Easy
again.
name.
Stopped at Dan's block party earlier this year, so. All right, you're all set. You've been well-trained in putting your name and badge up and being ready to go. We appreciate you being here this evening and being interested in serving on the Equity and Inclusion Commission and subjecting yourself to this interview process. We'll just describe the process a little bit to you, let you know what to expect here, and then we'll dive right in. First, we'll do a round of questions. We've got the council members here as well as our chair of the commission, Praj, over here. And each of us will have a chance to ask a question and you'll have a chance to answer. And then at the end of that process, if there's anything that we haven't covered there that you want to make sure we know about supporting your application or any questions you have for us, we'll have hopefully a few minutes for that as well.
Wonderful.
All right, well, with that, we'll start the next round of questions with Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. How do your experiences and skills relate to serving on a city commission?
Yeah, well, I think when I was looking through the packets from past meetings, one of the things that I noticed was that the commission is or has been working on finding out or finding their way around what are the differences between policy setting versus operationalizing a decision with staff versus advising. And I'm really fortunate in my role. I work full-time as the emergency manager for the city of Brooklyn Park. And so I get to work with community members and directors and the council. And I've seen, times where those roles get a little blurred and, we get out of our swim lane and we're not nearly as effective as when everybody understands why any particular team is there. And so I think one of the assets that I would bring to the team is hopefully some ability to help with clarity around what the role of a commission is. I also, working in emergency management, one of the things that it gives me an opportunity to do when we look at the community that I serve, and we look at where can we have the biggest impact in terms of preparedness ahead of time, so that when we have a bad day, that we minimize the impact and the demand on first responders and other government services. A lot of it comes down to disparities in people's resources, whether it's because of language barriers or because of economic status or whether or not they have a big network of community, friends and relatives in the community. And so a lot of the work that I do is to try to bridge some of those disparities ahead of time. And so when we do have a bad day, the impacts are lessened. And it feels like to me that work is really aligned with this specific commission.
All right. And so these first two questions sort of go hand in hand with each other and the answers can flow back and forth between them. So one question is about sort of general experience and background and how that can affect serving on a commission. And the other part is this specific commission. And so the second question is, what motivates you to be a part of this particular commission? And you can weave back and forth in your answer if you want to as well.
And so second part, why this commission? And then first part again.
Well, so just generally your skill sets for serving on a commission like this.
Gotcha. Well, I've been in public service for most of my life. When I was 22, I joined the Falcon Heights Fire Department and was on that until the department was disbanded. And I loved it. I loved being able to help members of the community when they're having a bad day, make it a little bit better. And there was a huge sense of reward from that. And I've also been able to do it full time, working as an emergency manager. In terms of my background, I sat on a task force. It wasn't a commission, but it was the Falcon Heights Policing, Inclusion, and Equity Task Force back in 2017 after the city experienced an officer-involved shooting. And while I hope that type of event never happens again, that experience was really valuable. It was one of the most difficult things that I've done is be part of that group. But through that process, we had folks with a wide variety of backgrounds and lots of different opinions and passions coming together on a topic that was getting national attention. And, it felt like the eyes of the world were on this task force to solve a problem that was in no way limited to Falcon Heights. And it was exhausting. But it was a really great experience on how do we come together when we have a table with all different opinions and all different backgrounds and try to reach some consensus on, find that common ground and figure out what are the things that we can actually move forward on that are tangible. This commission, why this commission? I was born in the 70s and growing up in the 80s and the 90s as a gay kid. There's a lot of disparities, a lot of challenges, a lot of discrimination, a lot of hate that I was subject to. And in some ways I feel like because you don't just automatically know that I'm gay when you see me, that there was people that felt safe in expressing their hatred that didn't know that they shouldn't around me. And so I know what my experiences are. I don't know what anybody else's are, but I know the other day I went to a clinic and they had a sign on the door as a rainbow flag and it said, "All are welcome." And I thought, I've been to the doctor's office a lot of times and I've never seen that sign. And I told the gal at the front desk, that sign makes such a difference to me. That's something that's so simple, but yet it tells me that somebody here has thought about how to make this a more inclusive environment. And it just made my day. And so when I see simple little things like that can be done that make a big difference, and then I'm excited about the thought of what could we do as a city that would make an even bigger difference.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Croft.
Please explain your understanding of the scope or duty of this commission you've applied for.
Yeah, it's a tough position. I think being on a commission because you're an advisor, right? And you don't set policy. That's up to this group. You also don't direct staff, right? That's up to the directors and others. But you have an opportunity, probably more so than the average citizen calling their council member and providing input, to really help get hands-on with city policy, city programs, and identify ways that you can recommend that some alterations be made or different ways of doing things that will make the world we live in a better place. And so I very much see it as an advisor role, which is very much in line with what I do on a day-to-day basis, because as the emergency manager, I don't oversee anybody. But yet when a bad day happens and things are really, really bad, part of my job is to advise the mayor, hey, I think you ought to declare a disaster declaration, and that's going to grant a whole bunch of other people some powers that they don't normally have. And then my job is to advise the person running that event on how they should do things. And that person is usually many pay grades above mine. And so you're in this awkward position of, advising someone, and today the role is this, but once this emergency is over, the role goes back to this, right? And so advising is something that I'm comfortable with, but is definitely what I would see as the role of the commission.
Thank you.
Councilmember Strong.
I think in this you get to have a little bit of creative vision. What do you believe should be the focus of this commission?
I believe that this is kind of a dangerous answer. I believe I don't know what the focus should be. I think that the focus,
Good
I think that one of the things that we ought to do is figure out what the focus, and I'm sure that a lot of time and energy has been put into this already. One of the things that I have questions about would be, the difference between the thoughts and feelings and opinions of the commissioners versus the general public, and just how do those come together. But I think that our job is to listen and hear what the needs of the community are, and then to work collaboratively in a way that we can figure out what's feasible and bring that forward. But I don't know that I know the answer specifically to one topic that the commission should focus on, but I'm really excited to find out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
What do you love most about living in Roseville?
When I first moved into my house, I live on the southern edge of Roseville, one block out of Falcon Heights. And I was on the fire department, and so lots of the St. Anthony police officers would stop by my house on break and, you know, whatnot, just to say hi and check in and whatever. And I'd been there for about a year, and I had a neighbor that came over one day, and she said, you know, we've never seen as many cops in this neighborhood as we have since you moved in. Really suspicious, like, what are you up to? And I'm like, oh, you know, my name's Dan, you know, this is like, they're friends, you know, they're coming. And so I love the fact that we don't see a lot of cops in the neighborhood because we live in a very safe neighborhood. I love the sense of community. I love the block parties that we have. I love the assistance from the city. When we do have a block party or whenever there's any other need, I've found the staff to be unbelievably responsive when I have a reasonable request. And so I would say that the city of Roseville makes it easy to be an active and happy resident of the city.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Great, well, thank you for that last response, because it's always good to hear what we're doing right. We hear a lot of times what we're doing wrong, and so thank you for that.
Sure.
It's nice to hear. The question I have are, sometimes the commission makes a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feelings from the public, perhaps from opposing perceptions. Can't even talk tonight. How would you expect to deal with such situations of serving on the commission?
Yeah, well, thank you for the comment. As the guy who any concerns about tornado sirens get funneled to, I hear you on complaints, because I have yet to get a call from anyone saying, thank you, all of our sirens are working. It's usually, why this or why that? So I feel your pain there. You know, I just blanked on the question. Would you just, I'm sorry, would you?
No, it's like when you're having to deal
Oh, that's
with
right,
strong
difficult.
feelings
Yeah.
and opposing
Yeah.
opinions.
I think that's a big challenge in Minnesota, specifically because we are so Minnesota nice that sometimes we are a little hesitant to get into a good debate. I spent a couple weeks in Italy this past year, and I mean, the conversations around the dinner table, you'd think everybody hated each other because they're so engaged in the conversation and the hands are going and the volume, but they all love each other and it's all great conversation. And so I think differences are great. I think that different viewpoints are great. You know, I've learned a lot. You know, my like I said, I feel like I wear two hats in a way, because a lot of people assume that I'm a straight guy, but I'm not. And so, you know, I hear opinions. I'm like, you think I'm part of this group, but I'm not part of it. You know, and I think that's all good. And I think that we need to embrace the fact that we all have different viewpoints. I think it's pretty easy to work with folks if you just have ground rules that you operate under. You know, things like I statements, that we act in a respectful way, we conduct ourselves professionally in a meeting, and we encourage differences. I would say that with the policing, inclusion and equity task force, there's a lot of very strong feelings, and a lot of ideas that were not tenable. You know, a lot of desires from different people in the group, but we landed on some actionable things despite those big differences. So I welcome it. It can be a challenge, but I think that's a great thing. And I'm Irish, not Italian, but I still love a good debate. So.
Thank you.
Well, those were the questions. Was there anything you wanted to make sure we knew about, or any questions you had for us in just a couple of minutes here?
Just one question. So in looking over the history and the packets from the past, it looks like a lot of foundational work has been done. The guide for new commissioners on and things, as an example, figuring out, you know, what exactly the role is. So moving forward, how do you see the balance between council or staff priorities for the commission versus priorities that commission members bring forward and feel are a priority for the community? And I guess I'd start with you, sir.
You know, that's a great question. Actually, we were just talking about that in our last meeting, right? Because we're trying to find that balance of, we want buy-in from council on what we're working on, but we also want input from this, you know, the residents, right? Because that should be our focus, right? Inclusion to government for, again, people who usually don't have a voice in government. And again, it's tricky to find that balance. But again, trying to focus on tangible small wins, right? Looking at the commission onboarding process, that package is tangible. It's something I can point to after. Something I don't like about government I see is like, I feel like a lot of times politicians, they speak in platitudes, right? Like, oh, I'm running to improve the city. And I'm like, okay, like how? What's something tangible I can point to? So I'm focused on tangible wins that the commission can focus on, but that's not always clear, especially, as we're still kind of navigating government and figuring ourselves out. Because again, compared to other commissions who've been in the government or in the city for like 20, 30 years, we were just created, I think about 2 years ago, or less than 2 years, right? So still finding our footing and what are other things that we could actually work on. And hopefully, we created an email template to respond to residents. I'm hoping we get more resident outreach so we have like more ideas and more brainstorming and again, tangible things to advise on to city council.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I would actually say, one of the, and it is, because actually, I actually was on the commission, the finance commission, brand new. So I remember, trying to figure that out. And it's fairly well established now. But one of the things is we went through a strategic plan session with the city. And one of the things we wanted to make sure that when we're going through that process and setting up the different pieces, that this commission gets very involved in making sure how we're doing that is actually going to be inclusive. And that was, because a lot of, and part of it is we may not see what's missing in that. And so that's where we're hoping, hey, I know we're looking at this particular part, but this might be a better way to actually achieve that or something. And that's, I think, one of the key pieces we're hoping for, because the strategic plan was, is big and we're trying to figure out how to, digest that and make sure it's going to include everyone. And so to me, I think that's a big piece that I think the commission needs to be involved in.
Thank you.
The only thing I would add is that as this conversation has gone on, I mean, what this commission is looking at is a subject matter that is huge. And the challenge I think we want to make sure as the entity that has commissioned this commission to do this work is that it's manageable work, and that that there's not sort of that there's so much to do and so much to focus on that nothing gets done or focused on. And so I think that's where we've really been trying to make sure that plans are managed and manageable, and that we can have these achievements that we can kind of chalk up and then move on and things like that. So it's all about trying to work the way through sort of the big picture of everything and still staying focused on and accomplishing work. And so I think from my perspective, that's part of what the commission is still trying to work through. But I think the council is coming at it from the point of view of making sure that we don't put too much on the commission, and set the commission up to fail, basically. So we don't want to do that.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you again for applying, and of course we've got a number of applicants for a small number of positions. I think one.
Good.
And so not everybody can be appointed this time around, but we certainly always encourage people to either try again if you're not appointed, or regardless of whether you're appointed, find those ways to connect with the city in ways that you can do that service to the community that you want to do. So we'll be making our decision in the next few weeks here, and staff will follow up.
Okay. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
And Mr. Mayor, Councilmember, thanks or congratulations on the primary results.
What are you talking about?
Not related.
Doing?
Good. How are you?
I am Julie. It's actually Owen, but not to be overly particular.
Easy enough to fix.
It's the type of thing that I
It is correct on
normally
your
don't say
application, so
anything
that's a
about.
good sign.
Yeah, that is a good sign.
All right, well, thank you for applying for the Equity and Inclusion Commission and subjecting yourself to the interview process this evening. We hope to be easy on you here, but it is very helpful for the council in determining, the assets and the capabilities of all the candidates and how, how to factor that in making our appointment decisions. So we do appreciate your participation.
Yeah, thanks for coming again since we saw you in the spring.
I was gonna
Thanks
say,
for having me again.
As it was in the spring, we'll do a round of questions here. We've got our chair, Praj, with us, who will be part of that. And then once that's done, if there's anything that we haven't covered you want to make sure we know about, or if there's any questions you have for us, there may be a little bit of time for that as well.
Okay.
So with that, we'll jump right into the questions. And then the first question this time around will be asked by Councilmember Strawn.
Thank you. So how do your experiences and skills relate to serving on a city commission?
Yeah, sure. I think last time I went pretty deep into like my social work background, so that definitely does help me, the experience and skills for this, as well as working for a council of governments, kind of those procedural things. And my time spent at the United Way working on equity and inclusion there. But this time I kind of want to highlight some of my personal experiences as well. I grew up in Iowa. I grew up in Iowa very poor. I lived in an area where I was the minority, and so it just gave me a different experience, I think, that kind of led me down the path where I wanted to gain more like knowledge and information. So kind of just a different pathway into social work and those types of things that I think really do relate to the equity and inclusion component of this particular commission.
Great. Chair.
What motivates you to be part of this specific volunteer commission?
I think the background that I have, the passion that I have for equity and inclusion, and also I think that there's so much good that goes on here in Roseville. In the spring, I became kind of a little bit knowledgeable about Do Good Roseville and just so many things that are so awesome that happen here that I just really would like to be a part of in a deeper and more meaningful way.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes, please explain your understanding of the scope or duty of the commission you applied for.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the duties include going over the agenda, of course, so that you know what will be discussed. That was pretty well highlighted, and then having some background information, maybe doing a little bit of research so that you can ask really good and thoughtful questions around the topics that are being discussed and work together as a team to advise and what maybe we would want to consider or maybe what we would want to do moving forward.
Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you. What do you believe should be the focus of the commission?
So I don't know if this is cheeky or not cheeky, but I went with like the strategic plan goals because I think that, those are outlined as something that the commission should be focusing on. They've already been identified as things that we would want to be talking about and advising on. So I think that those would probably be in the forefront, especially for any forward movement. I'm sure that there are things that come up that we would want to add to agendas as we move through the year and whatnot, but it seems like according to the July notes, that would be a great place to start.
All right. A little bit of a softball question here. What do you love most about living in Roseville? And you can revise and extend your remarks from your previous interview if you
Well, my neighborhood's great. I think I mentioned that last time. I live very close to Julie and wonderful neighbors. We have a really nice block there. I also really enjoy the small businesses and like the diversity of the small businesses around. I love to try new coffee shops especially, and I find that there's just so many different ones to try out and that do have like diverse ownership, and I think that's really neat. I'm still exploring more about that, and I also really love the parks and the trails, and my dog loves those as well, so that's a plus too. Everyone's really friendly, and I love the central location. It's easy to get anywhere from here.
All right. Councilmember Groff.
So this is the harder question. Sometimes the commission makes a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feelings from the public, perhaps from opposing perspectives. How would you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
That one's actually something that I am pretty well, I guess, trained in. I've done a lot of training around like de-escalation techniques like MANT and CPI. And so it's a lot of like seeking to understand first. So if somebody comes to discuss something that they're very angry about, you first want to express empathy and understanding or ask questions so that you can understand and help to de-escalate. But then you also want to know more about what they hope to see happen in the future and put that on your radar, to bring forward.
Thank you.
All right, I think that is all of the questions here.
Okay.
Was there anything you particularly wanted to emphasize in support of your candidacy for this commission, or any questions you have for us?
Well, I think to emphasize, I definitely have a huge passion for this, and I'll probably just keep showing up like over and over again. So, and I mean, that's fine, I don't mind it at all. And this time was a little easier than last time, so, if there's a third time, it'll be even more pleasant than this, so. Yeah, I'm just really passionate about it. And then as a question, if we have a moment, like, should I not be chosen this time? What is the team looking for? What do you guys want from your commissioners?
Boy, that's the $1 million question.
Isn't it? Yeah.
The sort of the easy answer is, well, we're looking for a diverse group of people with a lot of different points of view that can work together and come to positive outcomes with each other. If anybody wants to add anything to that, that was sort of the platitude answer.
Well, I think that's accurate. I mean, each commission is made up of different people, and you look at who's on them, and I like to have a variety of voices on them so that we get different perspectives. That's why I echo what the mayor always says at the end. I'm going to take your, just because you don't get chosen this time, it's not because you didn't do a good interview. It's because for me anyway, I'm looking for a variety on the commission. So
That makes perfect
someone
sense.
else said
Well, and I think it depends on who's on the commission now or
Yeah.
who terms off,
Right.
or who decides they aren't able to stay on. It really depends on the combination of people. And I would think Praj would probably feel the same way, that it kind of depends on, you don't always know what skill you need until maybe somebody says something, you're like, oh, that's a skill we don't have, or something, so.
Number one is just passion, right? I mean, I started this 2 years ago. My friends got me a shirt that said "Them Ready for America," which I don't know if you watch West Wing. When I interviewed, I brought it up, right? Right, but it was like that concept of giving something bigger than yourself, right, in the community. And I didn't know what a commission was and what the interview was like. It was just I showed up like you did, and I interviewed. And I think the ones that were resilient and keep showing up and are passionate are the ones who will eventually get a commission.
Awesome. Well, that's great to know. So, it just will keep me coming back. If it's not this time, maybe the next time.
Well, spring we have more because that's when the terms are actually out. So
Okay.
Yeah, this is happens to be a vacancy in the fall here. So, but I'll just end here by thanking you again for
Awesome. Well,
coming forward, and
thank you.
also thank you for your resilience and your passion that means you'll be back if you're not appointed this time. But certainly, hopefully, we can either way channel that into a number of different opportunities to serve the community and give back to your city. So certainly Rachel out there in the hallway can help folks plug in, as you may know. So thank you again. Best of luck to you. We'll make our decision in the next few weeks here, and staff will follow up.
Well, best of luck to your decision making. Thank you
thank you,
all.
name tag.
Oh, you forgot your misspelled name tag.
Yeah.
Oh, I was leaving that for you. Just to remember. Thank you.
Do that.
Well, welcome, and thank you for applying for the Equity and Inclusion Commission. We appreciate your interest in serving the community in this way, and for being here this evening to subject yourself again to this process. We have a lot of repeat applicants this time around.
Yeah,
so
actually,
that's all right.
everyone, all the rest of them are repeats.
So anyway, you've got kind of a handle on what the process is like here, and we'll do a round of questions from the council members. We also have our chair, Praj, here, who will participate as well. And if there's time at the end, if there's there's anything you want to make sure and emphasize, or if you have something you wanted to ask us about, we'll have a chance for that as well.
Okay.
So with that, this round of questions will start with Councilmember Schroeder.
Oh, thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
How do your experiences and skills relate to serving on a city commission?
So, I mean, I have a lot of things I think that dovetail with what the commission is doing, and since you've, I think all heard this before, or maybe somebody wasn't here last time. So, I mean, I don't mean to bore you, but by what I do for my profession is I'm involved in helping organizations deal with affirmative action, equal opportunity issues. So that's what I've been doing for 40 years. So I have a very deep background in understanding, at least in the employment context and really in a lot of contexts, what some of those kind of things are all about. I was involved in diversity issues before the term diversity had shown up on the scene. And so it's really been part of who I've been for many years. The other part of my experience, I think that's got some value to the commission, to the city, is that I've been involved in lots of various kinds of organizations outside of work that would bring some value to what's going on here. I was a member of the school board in Wisconsin, where I used to live for 6 years, so have some insight into how government functions and how difficult all of your jobs are, and you know what the role both of council is and of the organizations that support the council. I've been involved in helping with nonprofits. We had a nonprofit that was part of the community that I lived in, where I was on the board for 10 or 15 years, that dealt with issues for women, children, elderly folks in the population. Spent a lot of time in that nonprofit. I was involved in an organization that was helping companies that had people who were in the affirmative action equal opportunity field to come together to understand what was going on in the field, to be able to talk to each other, to be able to talk to regulatory agencies, to be able to get insights on how they could do their jobs better, how they could make sure that they were informed about the law, how frankly the regulatory agencies that we were all dealing with could understand the perspective of the employers who were working under their regulations. Did a lot of things to facilitate conversation there, to make sure that we had participation from a variety of sectors. So I've been involved in a lot of things that you know, certainly are diversity, you know, equity involved. Have continued to do that. I'm currently working on a part-time basis for an organization where the other person I work with has also been doing this for about 40 years. So we have between us some experience in some of these issues and some of the unique things that come up.
Councilmember Bauer.
What motivates you to be part of this volunteer commission?
I have a real desire to put some of my skills to use on behalf of other people. I think that I have some unique skills that I could bring to this process. I have some experience that would be of value to the commission, to the city, to the people who live here. And that's something that's always been really important to me. Service has always been part of who I am, what I've done. The organizations I've been involved in on the outside have always been fundamentally, you know, involved in service issues. How do we do things for the community? How do we do things for folks at large? And I think it's, you know, part of what I want to do in any place that I live is I want to be able to be involved in the community, to be of service in some way. This commission just happens to fit very clearly with some of the things that I know, some of the interests I have. So it seems like the right place to be. I have to admit, when the first time I saw something, which I think was your article about your participation here, it was just like, this sounds like a great thing to be involved in, and it sounds like something where I could put some skills to use. So that's a lot of where I'm at.
Please explain your understanding of the scope and duties of the commission that you applied for.
A commission like this acts as an advisor to the city council. So, I think one of the things that you don't have to worry about in my context is that I think I'm running for city council because I'm not. That's something that I think Wayne, you're the one who's currently on the ballot. I know, and you're I'm sure you're out and about doing all of those things. That's not what the commission's about. Commissions are not meant to run the city, to be the governing body. Commissions are there to provide input to the city council, to provide input to the city, the various parts of the city who need some input on various things that touch on the expertise of the commission. The other thing that's, I think, the commission, what you're looking for is you're looking for people who can not only make a commitment to the community, but, think about things strategically. Because I would think that the city is, the city council is really looking for this commission to provide input on some areas, to provide a strategy for how can we make some of these things go forward in a way that's going to be productive for the city and productive for the residents of the city. So, this commission is important. The commission is not the city council. They're very distinct roles, and I think that's it's something I understand very well.
Thank you. Councilmember Groff.
Thanks for being here. What do you believe should be the focus of this commission?
So this is something where I have to admit, I'm going to see something very different than what I said the last time I was here. I think that the focus of this commission, the basic idea for the commission is really important. Looking at equity and inclusion issues are something that we need to do more of. I will tell you that I'm really concerned about the times that we live in. I think we all are. And it's not just what happened in Minnesota in the early parts of this year. More and more, there are just things that are happening around the country that are really problematic, that we see in so many different places, in the work that I do, in the people that I talk to, that there are real serious issues going on in terms of what the federal government's handling, and what it thinks its priorities in regard to diversity and equity and inclusion. And I think in terms of priorities, in terms of where this group needs to be, it's important to understand that the world's a different place than when I think the council was originally talking about having this commission. In 2020, when the George Floyd, what do you even call it? It's not an issue, it's not a situation, it's a tragedy, a disaster. When that happened and the country really started to think in a constructive way about, how do we approach where we are in terms of race relations, those things were, I think they're really high in people's minds, and there's a lot of places that were really, trying to do something useful and constructive. Today, at the moment, what you're seeing is a lot of effort, certainly on the part of the federal government and some other, units of government, thank God, not here, not in Minnesota, but other places where people are taking a very antithetical view of what's going on. And I think one of the roles of the commission at the moment has to be to think about that in a really careful way. I've been really surprised by some of the stuff that's happened in the last year. I expect, but don't know if you've had discussions in the commission or in the council about the fact that Austin, Texas is currently undergoing a review by the Department of Justice based on some of its diversity actions and policies. It's appalling, but it is what it is. Recently in Houston, a federal judge struck down Houston's ability to try to draw in minority women-owned businesses. A lot of that, the judge basically said, those are not acceptable under where the Supreme Court is at, where the courts are at in terms of priorities and perspectives. I think those discussions have to come into what's going on here. And I would strongly encourage you, whether you pick me for this group or not, to take those up as issues that are really important. Because I don't want to see Roseville be the next Houston, the next Austin, the next whatever city we want to talk about. I think there's a lot that can be done in the equity and inclusion area. I think there's a lot that should be done in terms of equity and inclusion. I do think that equity and inclusion should be looked at in a very broad sense. I know that the strategic racial equity action plan has been important here. Frankly, from my perspective, maybe there's some additional things that really need to be a focus at this point. I think that there are many people, many programs, many things that can be served by looking at diversity in a broader sense and making sure there's an understanding both that there are things that we need to do as a community, but there's also things that are going on in the external environment where you need to think about how do we understand how that affects us as well. And it's just a different time. And frankly, it scares me. And I think it probably scares everybody. But I also think that this is the kind of commission that really needs to do things, to think about what does that mean for all of us? How do we think strategically about those issues, and how do we make sure that the programs we have are things we can really make go forward? Sorry, I'll get off my little soapbox.
No, that's fine. All right, Councilmember Strawn.
I have the easy one. What do you love most about living in Roseville?
I was having an interesting conversation with a couple people out in the hall, and because I sort of assumed when I came to this last time and came into this time that I would be the person who'd be like, oh, I haven't been here that long, and so I'm not the right choice because I don't know that much about Roseville. I've been here for 4 years, and it was really helpful to me to meet the other folks who were candidates a little bit, because they were just talking about the fact that we haven't lived here our whole lives. We've been in other places too. Roseville's a great place. We're really excited about what's happening here in Roseville, and we really like the neighborhood we live in. We like the parks. We like a lot of things that people traditionally say about Roseville. I will tell you that for me personally, what I'm really committed to is community, to the communities that I live in. And for me, I guess there's a sense in which Roseville is a place I would like to be involved with. But I'm here because I want to be able to serve, the community I'm part of. We have no intention of moving away anytime soon. We really are grounded here in part because of my personal circumstances, which I talked about last time. But I guess what I'm committed to most is being part of the community and being able to serve the community.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Sometimes the commission makes a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feelings from the public, perhaps from opposing perspectives. How do you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
I have experience doing that. I think that's the background that I bring to this process. I've been on, like I said, I've been on a variety of nonprofits. I've been involved in a variety of professional organizations. I've been on a school board. You don't live through those processes if you don't figure out, how do you deal with people who have very, very different opinions than you have. And the bottom line is that you need to treat people respectfully and understand that not everybody feels the same way that you do about things. That people bring their own unique interests and experiences to a process, and that it's important to hear people out. It's important to try to understand where everybody's coming from. It's important to realize that, what you think is important may not be most important to the group that you're in, to the place that you live, to other people, to make sure that you're being a part of the process, and then truly to approach things in a respectful, positive way. I guess the one story I'll tell, because I assume I told this one, but you haven't heard it, so it'll be fun. So, when I was on the school board I was on, I was the lone vote in favor of a policy that people were very unhappy with, in the community. And I voted for it because the study that the district had done and the process they had gone through seemed to make good sense, and it would be something in the long term to be good for the community. But someone caught me on the way out the door and said, what are you thinking? You know, we can't do that. And I said, I get it. I understand where you come from. You know, I understand that this is a change. It's a hard change. And I understand. And, you know, and the board has decided to go in a different direction, and I understand that too. But, you know, I have a perspective. I can share that with you if you like. If you don't, that's okay. And we spent, I think, an hour and talked through that whole process. And she walked me and said, don't agree with you, but I feel a lot better, you know, because we've had this conversation. I think those things are always important, to be able to do that.
Well, I think we,
That time, yep, I'm sure, sorry about that.
the additional question or anything, but we covered a lot of good things here, so I appreciate your willingness to share with us.
Yeah.
And certainly coming back for a second round here and.
Happy to do it. I'm very interested in this commission, obviously. and
If at first or at second you don't succeed,
It's
certainly try
understandable.
again.
All
But
right.
we appreciate it again, and best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. One can. Well, thank you for being here this evening for interviews, and we've got a lot of repeat applicants here, so we appreciate people's persistence as well in wanting to serve the community. As you may remember from the last time around, we'll do a round of questions from the council. We also have our chair, Mr. Vemeretti here. So we'll do that, and then if there's time at the end, if there's anything you want to let us know that we haven't covered, or any questions you have for us, we can do that at that time. So we'll dive right in with the questions this time around. Mr. Chair, you can start.
How do your experience and skills relate to serving on a city commission?
Currently as a project manager and guest relations manager for a number of cons throughout the Twin Cities and the Midwest, I think it would be fairly easy to translate those skills into city council, figuring out what's the best way to organize everybody's time and make sure that we are able to address everything in a timely manner. Additionally, being able to be personable with not only other council members, but the constituents that we serve.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Yes, what motivates you to be part of this volunteer commission?
Big factor the last time I was here was being able to help my community grow and feel safe and protected. I've been here since 1994, so a very small child at the time when I came here. But I love my community. Seeing how much everybody came together in January. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
But seeing how everybody came together to help, just thank you.
It's better than that.
See how everybody came together to help one another. Was truly just very fantastic. Being part of that community as well, doing community watch with other members of Roseville to make sure that everybody felt safe even when I did not. But also being able to see what else Roseville can do for its people. And seeing how I can better myself as a human to help those who need it more than I do.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you. Please explain your understanding of the scope or duty of the commission you're applying for.
So my understanding of the commission, yes, it is a volunteer position. But being able to address the concerns of those who maybe don't have that voice, with the diversity and inclusion, having an opportunity to represent not only more of the women in Roseville, but also somebody who doesn't look like a typical politician or typical person that they would see in city council or in any kind of environment like that. I know I'm not the typical applicant, given my hair, my tattoos, stuff like that. But being able to still be a part and show like, hey, you can be a part of the same thing, or I'm trying to think how to phrase that. You can still be a part of your city council, you can still be a part of your community and not be your typical applicant. As well as being able to help serve in those communities as well.
I have the next question, which is, what do you believe as we go forward should be the focus of the commission?
I think the focus of the commission should be making sure that every person has a voice in diversity and inclusion. I know that it's a very broad spectrum, but being able to see what's next for Roseville, seeing how it's gonna grow, seeing what we can do to help better the community, both in education and regular everyday tasks. What can we do to make sure that people feel that they are being seen and heard, as well as finding a way to address problems that maybe we haven't thought about before in the waiting area? I don't know what we want to call that. Having a chance to talk with the other applicants to figure out like why they love Roseville and things that they want to see grow. I would love to partner with them as well to kind of figure out what is the best way to make that happen. I know one thing that we were discussing out there was how can we help people with finding better housing, finding more affordable housing. What would that look like for the city council? What would that look like for the commissioners board to help assist with that?
Great, thank you. Councilmember Groff.
Thanks for being here. This is the easier question. What do you love most about living in Roseville?
I love it so much.
Since you've lived here a while.
Just like the accessibility to everything. I had lived out of state for a while, post-college, came back. Like, there's so much stuff that's here that I continue to find, and I'm just like amazed that we have it. Like there's the Minocqua Coffee off of Hamlin. They're fantastic. They are the most chill little coffee shop I found besides Mudslinger's. Everything that's offered in the Parks and Rec is amazing, and I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of people to kind of figure out like what are you passionate about. Especially for there's a small children like the educational programs for children that are super young, as well as elder care and elder activities for those who maybe don't get to get out and see the community as much. So offering those opportunities for people, like it's Roseville has come together in such a way that I think it makes sure that everybody in the community is supported in one way or another.
Councilmember Strawn.
How did you
Just
get
a
that
moment.
second?
I don't know.
Your ears are not
Technical
gauged.
difficulties.
No, just sorry. Sometimes the commission makes a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feelings from the public, perhaps from opposing perspectives. How would you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
Yeah, currently dealing with that with work. Finding out ways to like look at both the pros and the cons, seeing what's best overall. Maybe it's not always going to be the happy solution that we want to see, but figuring out a way that it's going to be beneficial and show how it's going to be beneficial in the long run. Taking everybody's voices into account is important, but at the same time, because of the size of the community that we serve, it's kind of figuring out what is best for the community and not just the 4 or 5 people that have the biggest gripe with it. In addition to looking at what is the long-term effect that that is going to have on the population that it's going to affect. Is it going to cause long-term issues? Is it going to be more beneficial long run? What is that going to look like, and what is that return going to look like?
Thanks. Is there anything you wanted to make sure we knew about that maybe we haven't covered in our
Trying to
questions
think.
and
I know,
answers?
I was trying to think about that on the way then. I don't think so, not off the top of my head.
More questions for us?
What do you guys find the most rewarding in this position, and what would you like to see happen with this position?
The commissioner,
In the commissioner role?
okay, not what we find rewarding
No,
in our
no.
positions, but.
I know what you find.
Well, I'm gonna defer to other council members or the chair if you wanna answer, cause I could talk all day about any subject, so.
No, I mean, definitely I found this very fulfilling, right? I wanted to be more civically engaged and I learned a lot more than I knew 2 years ago. I mean, again, 2 years ago, I didn't know what a commission was or what a city manager was, right? So it was a really good learning opportunity. I get to learn people in my community and apparently they know me too, which is also super cool. And still want to make a lot of progress, but taking it one day at a time. So.
Feedback, thoughts?
I've served on a couple commissions. I served on the forerunner of this was the Human Rights Commission, and we changed the format of it and changed it to the Equity and Inclusion. So, you know, getting a variety of voices, I found that very rewarding to have people from all different. I learned a lot on the commission because you learn from other people that come to. And then I was on the Planning Commission, so I learned a lot about zoning and the comprehensive plan and those sorts of things. So I think you have an opportunity to learn a lot about city government and how things work.
All right. Well, thank you again for.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that earlier.
No, we appreciate your passion and your caring. I think that's an important part about being a part of your community. So never feel bad about that. And as far as not necessarily looking like the typical applicant, I don't think that enters into our thought process either. So we're glad you're here.
There is one at this point.
Right,
I think it's
yeah.
pretty.
There's a lot more variety than you think in the world.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right. No, so anyway, really do appreciate you being part of this and looking to serve. If you don't happen to get appointed this round, we will have other opportunities. And we really, want to make sure that people who are passionate and care about people find those ways to connect with the community, even if it isn't serving on a commission, which I think we can all attest, can be kind of boring and not feel like you're making a lot of progress either, so.
I was like, I used to film them forever ago in high school, now it's
Sure.
like all digital. I'm like,
Right.
Oh, that's right. You were,
yeah. CTV.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Excellent.
So anyway, best of luck to you again, and thank you again for being here, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yes, thank you so much.
Ready to have a seat at the table here? Yeah, we've reflected
And
on
you-
how
and
many
that's you.
repeat applicants we have this evening.
and
Have you had a number of them?
yeah, all but one.
So I didn't know whether to bring in my old.
It's saving the city a little bit of money if we should have checked into that and had people bring it back. Well, thank you for being here and for applying again to serve with the city. We appreciate your interest in being of service to your community and subjecting yourself once again to this grueling interview process. As you're aware from the last time around, we do a round of questions from the council. We do also have our chair with us this evening, Mr. Vemeretti, and he will participate as well. If we have time at the end of that, if you do have a particular emphasis you want to make on anything supporting your application or any questions you have for us, we'll have a chance for that as well. With that, this round of questions will start with me. And so the first question is, as you may remember, how do your experiences and skills relate to serving on a city commission, maybe broadly and not specifically a particular commission?
I'm gonna try to say something different than I said.
I have written down the last one.
You probably know it better than I do. Well, Well, first of all, in my career, I lived in a lot of different places and I've worked with a lot of different people. One of those places that I enjoyed working was in San Jose, California, and we had the work group was actually a minority of people were from California and lots of them were from Asia and South Asia. Prior to going there, I worked in Roseville at Unisys at Sperry, if you remember that. And we also did a bunch of work using or connecting with people in Japan and people in India. So over time, that helped me start to realize that the thinking process, the perspectives, the cultural influences bring great value to bringing together ideas and finding better ways of doing things. I also had the luxury of having the parents I had. I think that's on your sheet. And they taught me to question. They taught me to be open-minded and to question.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Groff for the next question.
What motivates you to be part of this volunteer commission?
It's similar to stuff that I've done before. As you may remember, I do tutoring in the AVID program, but I had done a lot of that in Rosemount and got involved in the school district 196, the school district's pretty much equity and diversity and inclusion organizations. There were several different committees that I worked with, and I was also part of a push from the residents, the parents, to raise ourselves up in our abilities to embrace diversity.
Councilmember Strawn.
Excellent. Please explain your understanding of the scope or duty of of this particular commission.
My understanding is it's an advisor. It brings in ideas and is a bridge a little bit from the community to the city council. So the city council, as far as I understand it, and the city management lead the way with actual execution of plans. But this commission is basically to help in bringing information in and connecting things.
Right. Mr. Chair.
Please explain your understanding of the scope or duty. That was when you just asked, okay. What do you believe should be the focus of the commission?
This might be a little different than last time. There are certain things I've started to wonder about living where I live, where there is visible diversity and where there is inequity. And I would like to see somehow that we, as a commission, partnering with the city, could see what we could do to help with that. Now, a lot of that comes from economic inequity, and that's a hard nut to crack. But still, I'm thinking there are steps we can take, one of them being education. Everything is about education. So I'm hoping that the commission can maybe go a step or two beyond what it might have done in the past. And perhaps what I'm talking about was tried in the past, but I'd like to see more of it.
Councilmember Schroeder.
So, what do you love most about living in Roseville?
this is probably the same answer. When I was first here, a long time ago, to me it felt homogeneous. There was very little diversity. What I love most about it now, besides you got some tremendous trees here, is the increasing diversity that has happened here over years and I believe is still going on. I think that's pretty cool.
Councilmember Bach.
Thank you. Sometimes the commissions make a recommendation on a matter that has a lot of strong feelings from the public, perhaps from opposing perspectives. How do you expect to deal with such situations while serving on the commission?
I don't believe in absolutes very much. I don't believe in an answer is always the answer. There's always learning steps. And also what I think you're talking about, there's a balance. So it's to try to recognize the ideas and the different perspectives associated with the ideas, even the different cultures or races associated with the different ideas, and see what we can do to balance. We're not necessarily, I don't think any organization is necessarily going to have answers to things one size fits all. There's always going to be complication of some sort. Balance is the word that comes to mind.
All right, well, that is the end of the questions. Was there anything you wanted to make sure and let us know about in support of your application, or any questions you have for us?
Did I do better this time?
I don't
need to
grade
go
you
to the-
either time. I am writing down answers.
The question I did think of relates to the answer that I gave you, but I think it's a long conversation, and that's about the pockets of inequity and what can we together do about it. I don't know if you want to tackle that
That is
here.
the kind of the primary question, right? I don't know that we any more than you have the answer yet at this point, but certainly something that we need to keep talking about, as you said.
I'd say keep following things that we're doing at the council. We've had some pretty big conversations recently along those lines as far as utilization of various funds and such. So I think there's TBD.
So real quick, if the corner of Larpenteur and Rice and that area, by the park, there are these signs. And I've read about, was it the 2018, 2019, there was activity of the three cities to get together and try to lift it up. And what happened with that?
Still ongoing. In fact, there just was this past Saturday, one of the efforts of the Rice and Larpenteur Alliance is 3 times a year they do community building events, and the traditional summer event just happened, which was the block party on St. Paul side. But certainly big parts of that are some of the work that group has done around sort of being prepared for redevelopment of various sites along there. So there was a study that was done with a lot of help from the US EPA and funding from the US EPA to look at all the brownfields and sort of catalog all of the sites and what are the opportunities or what are the things that need to be looked at for development. There have been a lot of efforts by that group to be the conduit of funding, whether it's from the Ramsey County or from the city of St. Paul on the St. Paul side, to help small businesses with, things like signage, with things like, how do I run a small business and what do I need to know about, those sorts of things, connecting people with other resources. And so those are some of the examples of some of the things that have been done, but it's still a group that's ongoing. And we're looking for people in the community that would be interested in being a part of that in one way or another. And so being that you live in that area, you would certainly qualify. Not that there's any pressure on you on public TV here that you have to do it.
If there's something I can do to help, I don't know, whether my skill set matches.
We'll follow up afterwards here.
Yeah.
Is there a website for that?
There is, yeah. If you just Google Rice and Larpenteur Alliance, you should get there.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks, you too.
And with that, that is our last interview. And so we are having no more business before us. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
So we move on the